Well, Donald Trump, who has craved attention every day of his life, was the center of attention today while sitting silently for almost 50 minutes in a federal courtroom while being stared at for most of that time by Jack Smith, a man who seems to shun attention every bit as much as Donald Trump lusts for it. Both men were making history today. Donald Trump, the first former president of the United States charged with federal crimes, including espionage charges. And Jack Smith, the first federal prosecutor in history to obtain criminal charges against a former president. They were in a room together for the first time in their lives today at the Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. United States Courthouse. Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. was born in 1938 and grew up in Miami's Liberty Square public housing project. His parents were immigrants from the Bahamas. He went to segregated public schools in Florida. He was a paratrooper and an infantry officer in the United States Army, and he graduated from Howard University School of Law in 1968. In 1976, Florida's governor, Reuben Askew, appointed Wilkie Ferguson to the 11th Judicial Circuit Court of Florida. He was the first black judge to serve on that court. When he moved up in 1981 to Florida's 3rd District Court of Appeal, he was, again, the first black judge to serve on that court. When President Bill Clinton appointed Judge Ferguson to the federal district court in the Southern District of Florida in 1993, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Joe Biden managed the confirmation vote in the committee and on the Senate floor, which was unanimous. 10 years later, Judge Ferguson died of leukemia at age 65. In 2007, the new federal courthouse in the Southern District of Florida opened to administer justice under the name the Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. United States Courthouse. And so today, in a building named for a public servant whose life Donald Trump could never comprehend, Donald Trump stepped into the federal criminal justice system as a criminal defendant. The New York Times captured the moment this way. A grim Donald J. Trump leaned back from the defendant's table inside the jammed 13th floor courtroom in Miami on Tuesday, jaw set, arms crossed, his back tensing visibly under his dark suit jacket. About 20 feet away in the second row of the visitors gallery was Jack Smith, the special counsel who had put him there, alert and poker-faced. Mr. Smith looked on as 3 Justice Department lawyers under his supervision offered Mr. Trump a bond agreement to release him on his own recognizance without bail that was respectful and accommodating but profoundly humbling. After a 50-minute courtroom encounter unlike any other in the country's history, Mr. Trump exited by a side door, recessed in dark wood paneling, but not before allowing himself a curious peek over his shoulder at the 40 or so reporters crammed into the room. About a minute later, Mr. Smith and his team walked to the opposite side of the room and left wordlessly. He did not look back. Donald Trump never spoke in court today. His lawyer entered a plea of not guilty to the 37 counts that Donald Trump faces. The charges include 31 violations of the Espionage Act. Tonight, after flying back to the golf club in New Jersey, where he spends his summers, Donald Trump finally spoke on this night before his 77th birthday.
I was with Eric and Laura, the kids. Happy birthday, Grandpa. Happy. And I said, oh, great. I just got charged with, they want 400 years approximately. If you add them all up, a fake 400 years. Oh, thank you, darling. That's so nice. It's a wonderful birthday.
And Donald Trump read this defense from his teleprompter.
As president, the law that applies to this case is not the Espionage Act, but very simply the Presidential Records Act, which is not even mentioned in this ridiculous 44-page indictment. Under the Presidential Records Act, which is civil, not criminal, I had every right to have these documents.
And tonight, Donald Trump finally, after 2.5 years of thinking about it, has come up with a motive for why he illegally took classified documents and other government documents when he left the presidency.
Many people have asked me why I had these boxes. Why did you want them? The answer, in addition to having every right under the Presidential Records Act, is that these boxes were containing all types of personal belongings, many, many things, shirts and shoes and everything. I hadn't had a chance to go through all the boxes. It's a long, tedious job, takes a long time, which I was prepared to do, but I have a very busy life. I've had a very busy life.